I'm your host, Jacqueline DeGregorio. Philadelphia is known as the mural capital of the world. We've got the Kimmel Center, the World Cafe Live, Philadelphia Orchestra, and the Pennsylvania Ballet. The arts are alive in Philadelphia. Today's episode of On Up Innovators features John Graves. His organization is a production company with a purpose. Before we meet John, I want to introduce my guest host today, Marilyn Graves. Marilyn has been involved in theater her entire life. She works at Heres2CoolStuff, a store that showcases local artists and their fashions. Marilyn, welcome to On Up Innovators.
Thank you.
Your son, John, watched you perform on stage his entire life. Do you think that this influenced his career in the arts?
Yes, definitely. I would be on the stage and he would just be looking up at everything, every action, every word, every song that was sang. And so much so that he would go to school and he was in pre-kindergarten and he taught all of the 33 other children every song of the plays, every word. And what amazed me is that they listened to everything he said and obeyed every move that he told them to do. So yes, I think that has definitely affected him.
Wow, it's amazing that you saw that from such a young age. Let's go back a little. Your mother-in-law and John's grandma is Evelyn Graves,
yes,
who made a huge impact in Philly. Her production company has been working with kids in Southwest Philly for decades. There's a school and even a street named after her.
Yes.
So give us some history here and how the arts has become a family calling.
Well, in 1969, my mother-in-law, Dr. Evelyn Graves, was writing skits. And she was writing these skits for the children on her street and in her neighborhood, just to give them something to do. And it kind of all evolved into this, people performing. We were just always performing, and in her living room, and then in her basement. And there was nobody at that time doing Christian drama in the city of Philadelphia, which means that she was a pioneer. She started that. And from that drama came the daycare. And then from the daycare came the school. And then, which evolved into the School of Performing Arts, and then also the church. But it all started with her just wanting to save the kids on her street and in her community. And so that kind of evolved into, so then comes John. John comes along. I get married and here comes John. And John loves the arts. And he kind of takes up that whole mantle of writing the plays and writing songs and just doing what his grandmother did.
Wow, not only is it so special that it is a family tradition, but that it has such an impact on the community.
Yeah, because just like she wanted to help change the lives of the children in her community, that's his whole goal, his whole thing, to help change the community through the performing arts.
Amazing.
I love it.
So John Graves wrote his first production when he was 19 years old. He's produced more than 30 original productions, and he's reached more than 10,000 families. John, welcome to UIF Rec Studio.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
We're so excited to have you here.
I'm excited to be here.
Could you tell us a little bit more about what makes Philadelphia's art scene unique?
Well, Philadelphia's art scene it hosts a plethora of artists, art enthusiasts, visionaries. And what I love about Philadelphia is it seems that we all have the same goals and common ground. And that is to bring positivity to the community,
yes,
to cultivate the community, and to survive. So I believe I can speak for most artists or all artists in the city of Philadelphia in that our art is a mode of survival, the way to survive, and it's about giving back also.
Wow, that is such powerful work, and it's such an honor to have you here. So tell us about your production company with a purpose.
So JGP, when I first started, it was not a company. I just wanted to put on a play. And once I did the first play, it wasn't good enough for me, so I did another one. That wasn't good enough, so I did another one. And it's just, the next thing I know, it was like 6-7 years in. But the ultimate goal was, I went to college and I joined a choir. And just from playing around, joking around, and living on campus and being with the same 75 people all the time, I got to see their talents. And I noticed the talents because of how I was raised. They didn't notice the talents or that they had any talent because they weren't raised that way, or they weren't exposed. So I'm like, yo, these jokes aren't just jokes. These jokes that you're saying, that's gold. This move that you're doing, that's not normal. That's something very special. So I began to create something for my friends because there was nothing here. You had all these talented teenagers, we were teenagers, but no resources. In order to get where we wanted to go, we should have or would have already had the training and things that everybody else had. I did, but my friends didn't. So I'm like, what's the chances of them going back 10 years into their life and starting all over again? So I thought I could be one of the people to inspire people and put programs in place and put situations in place so we can learn how to cultivate these gifts and talents that everybody seemed to have, because everybody around me had them. And then I realized a few years later that I was drawing those kind of people in, artists and art enthusiasts, or people who had talents but didn't know how to get involved in different things in the community, or where to use their gifts, or they just felt displaced or misplaced. And I found that art, because it's so broad, the spectrum of art is so broad that everybody can find a place. And so I thought it'll be one of my responsibilities to have a place like that.
So you gave them a home?
Yes, a home,
really
a
special.
space, a community,
Yes.
a safe place. And it's because of where I was. Everywhere I went, whether it was in my grandmother's company, Freedom Theater, Westchester, wherever I went, I felt like I was at a home in the arts, and I wanted to offer that to other people.
That's so special. So when you first got into the arts, you had an opportunity to move to LA, but you decided to stay here in Philly. Why did you stay? And would you say hindsight is 20/20? Do you feel that you've made the right decision staying here?
I wanted him to go out and to become his own. I wanted him to go to LA.
Well, my pause in my response is because of the hindsight in 2020. If I would have just focused on myself, if I would have just wrote things for me, or just not pick up, you know what I mean? Or what if I spent 5 years away and brought what I learned back? But things happen for a reason. And that's why I was hesitating, like, could I, should I? Because sometimes I'd be like, you know what? I'm good enough, I can do this on my own, or I can do this, or I can go away, but then I feel the burden of leaving people behind, and not people that have invested in me with their art, and the people that I have invested in, even though we may not know that we are investing, you know what I'm saying? But I also think that if I went somewhere else, I'm still from Philadelphia and I still have my roots here. So at this point, I'll go anywhere. Philadelphia will always be my home.
That's such an amazing way to think about it. I love that.
So John, can you talk about who is in your productions and why is it so important to give local artists a platform?
Well, in my productions, we have artists or art enthusiasts, people trying to get involved. We have some newbies, beginners, experts, people who have been doing it for a while, or even those who who performed as a child or teenager, and they went to school, went to college, and changed some things up, and they want to get back into it, get back into their passion. So I find that that's mostly, or people who come right out of college and are looking for a company to grow in, or a company to house their gifts and skills. They come to JGP. And the second part of that, it's important to me because if it's about community, okay, we have to have people of the community there. It's a bigger situation than just a one-on-one type of thing. What you give me, I can then go back and give to an audience of 600. And what I give you, you can go back and give to your whole block.
Right.
And then one person goes to the next person, and that's how we make those changes. That's how we move the needle locally, by using the arts and the stories and the circumstances and the successes that happen in our community. That's what we relate to the most.
Okay.
And that's what people are drawn to.
So John, producing plays and performing in theaters is expensive. So how have you been able to fund your work in theater?
So you remember when I started, 19 years old, I was an RA. So I was making $175 a week, And the only bill I had at that time was my T-Mobile bill, which was like $60, $75 at that time. So I would save the rest of that money, and I saved enough to go downtown. I went down to Broad and Girard, Broad and Master, walked into Freedom Theater and said, I want to put on a play and tell me what I need to do. They told me what I needed to do, and I just saved up all my money, which at that time I think was $2,300 to put on a show for a 2-day situation. And how I was able to do that, save the money, and then we sold tickets, you know, and that's basically how we were able to do it for many years. Tickets, pretty much, tickets, the support of the audience. We're not backed by anyone, and so we do a lot of fundraising, a lot of small events to promote the arts, to let people know that we are here, let people know what we are doing. Because of how elaborate our shows are, and how many people exist in the shows, or how great the shows are, it could easily assume that we're rich. Easily assume that we're backed by Disney. But it's because I haven't stopped, you know, and I just keep learning. And having done this for 13 years, you just acquire skills. But to go back to the original question, the audience. Our fans and our families who keep coming to see these shows, and also artists who want to learn more. So we have an education department where we have series and classes, so people come in and join our group classes, and that also helps support the shows, support the programs, and also gives the artists in the community a place to learn and teach and educate. Because after a while, we have programs, we have directors, we have classes, so people within the community give back, and we're able to pay them, and we're able to compensate artists who are artists like me. And I think that's what this was all about in retrospect. I experienced the phenomenon of the arts and what it did for me, and I wanted to give that back. Or I wanted to get other people on that bandwagon, like, yo, y'all missing it. And art can be anything, Mom, you know. True. It doesn't just have to be performing. It could be anything. And I just wanted to open people's minds to that option, you know.
Art literally saved my life, literally. So what are some of the struggles that you've had in staying true to your work in the performing arts theater?
Well, it's not hard to stay true to my work.
But there are struggles.
Yeah, to be a great performer, in my opinion, you have to be open. And to be open, you have to be vulnerable. And to be vulnerable, you have to be okay with yourself. And to be okay with yourself, you have to do some things. You have to fix some things. And so art encompasses a whole life change. You know? And so the struggle is not necessarily staying true to that mindset, but getting other people to believe it, and getting other people to invest in it, you know, with their time, with their, you know, because Instagram and social media, Facebook makes you think that it's just as easy as putting up a video and then you made it. That's not reality. Reality is you still have to put in hard work, and it makes it easier when you have other people putting in the same amount of hard work.
That's really powerful. I find the same personal transformation and mindset, like in entrepreneurship, like as a business owner, like I'm sure you've experienced that, and I see that in a lot of business owners and a lot of the people we're interviewing in this series. So I love that you brought that up. I would love to hear from Marilyn. Can you talk a little bit about working in John's thrift store, Heres2CoolStuff, and tell us how this store promotes artists in Philly?
Well, Heres2CoolStuff is this really cool, trendy building store where people can come and just be in a community. They can be free to be whoever they are. Because John designed a lot of the clothing, shirts in the store, everything in the store, in Heres2CoolStuff store, is designed to promote art. It's all about art, and it's not just for people that are 15, 16, 17. It is also designed for people who are 40, 50, and 60.
That's wonderful. And if some of our viewers want to come visit the store, can you tell us where it's located?
It's located in the heart of South Philadelphia, 1214 South Street. And Heres2CoolStuff, it's a place where cool people like to shop.
John, you're a busy bee. I give you a lot of credit.
once I took that leap of faith, I was a teacher. And I resigned in 2015 or 2014, 2015. January 2015. And I actually resigned on my birthday on 2014. My birthday is December 23rd. And on that day, I was just going, I wasn't going through anything, but that year was a rough year. And so my birthday came along and I received all these wonderful messages on Facebook, my email, people were saying, thank you, I love your shows, I love your plays, you changed my life, da da da. And that was overwhelming for me because the past couple months, I did not feel that way about myself. So it moved me so much that I have been used to, just in certain points of my life, being so overwhelmed with things that I didn't want to get out of the bed. Well, that day, I was so overwhelmed with love and birthday wishes and like validation and just all of that I could not get out of bed, but in a different way. So I said to myself, with all this great feeling, I have to do something monumental today. And what would that be?
Oh my God.
And out of that thought came resign, just like I heard the word resign. And I was like, what? So I got on my laptop and I just started typing a resignation letter. And a homegirl of mine came in and she's like, I have it on my TV, computer. She looks, she reads. She's like, oh my gosh, John. She's like, do it. And I was like, really? She was like, do it. And I pressed enter. And after that, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not gonna have any money. I just had like this whole freak out moment internally, but I did it anyway. And ever since then, because I did that, I don't have any other options except to keep going. I could go back into the classroom, but after doing all this, it's like, that's a last resort. But now that I have tasted of like doing what you love, it's a sacrifice. It's a sacrifice because the other option is getting paid every 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks, money is coming. You can spend a whole check and be like, you know what, I'm good because in 2 weeks, I'm getting another $2,500. Well, that's not the case as an entrepreneur at all. At all. I continue to lose money. It just comes and goes. Although thousands of dollars will go through my hands, it ain't my money.
Right.
Those all go to expenses. So these are all things I also didn't know before I opened up a store. It was just an idea. But I threw my own self into the wolves. I thought this is my own fault. These trials and tribulations as it relates to being an entrepreneur, but I wouldn't trade it. I'm grateful and I'm thankful that I've been chosen to do this kind of work.
It's so powerful, and I think it's kind of comical to hear as an entrepreneur myself, like nobody knows what they're getting into. Nobody realizes, it's not just about you, it's much bigger.
Yeah.
But the fact that you have that is really special because a lot of people, they give up before they get there. And now you have the impact and all the people who are depending on you, which might feel stressful, but it also feels empowering.
It is both. That's very well put. It is stressful and empowering. Sometimes I have to remind myself, I have to empower myself, because my feelings don't always add up to what I know to be true.
Right.
So in those moments, I correct myself, and remember that I have a purpose, I have passion, and I also remember what life was like without those things. I ain't going back to that. I ain't going back to that kind of life. And I'm not talking about teaching. I'm just talking about not living up to your best potential or doing what you love to do. And my brother-in-law asked me, I graduated high school at 16. And he, on the way somewhere, he says to me, what are you going to school for? I said, I don't know. In the back of my head, I really wanted to be a performer. I wanted to be a performing artist. But I thought you had to be lucky. I thought you had to be somewhere and somebody hear you singing in the bathroom, somebody hear you doing something. I'm like, that's how that's going to happen. But I didn't see it for myself. So he asked, he said, what would you do for the rest of your life and not worry about getting paid for it? And I thought, okay, what would I do and not worry about it? I said, I know the answer, but I would not say it because I was afraid. I thought, I don't want to put that out there, even at 16. And I just was one of those fortunate people that even though I tried to do something else thinking about money, it still brought me right back to what I love the most, and that is education, the arts, and serving the community, and saving my own self, okay? Saving my own self, realizing that if I'm going to survive, I have to do what I like to do. and not what anybody else is trying to do. I don't want to live anybody else's life. And that gift, you know, and I'm blessed to have a woman like this in my life, you know, or a community. Well, I just speak about her, who did not stop me, you know, from learning more about myself, because that gift I'm able to give to other people. I'm able to give that, especially in a play. What other way, or a film or a song? People may not listen to me talk, but they'll come and see a show, and I can put all the messages that I want into a show and touch people's hearts, prick their hearts, remind them that it's okay, challenge their thoughts, challenge their faith, challenge their resilience, challenge their belief, challenge, not just challenge, but give them hope, assurance, inspiration, and motivation. I can go on and on, but.
So with hundreds of performers that have flooded through your productions, how do you best mentor them? And could you also share who has been your mentor? Was it your mother, your grandmother, or someone else? Have you had, you know, many mentors, or what was kind of that journey for you?
So I used to think mentors were somebody I said, okay, can you be my mentor? And they would say, yes, I am your mentor. But now I think, you know, it is anyone who you glean from in terms of quantity and quality. And of course, it's my grandma. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it wasn't on purpose. I just happened to be around. Okay, I just happened to be around while she was handling certain things. I happened to be around while she was going through different small things, just in business, you know, or sneaking around. I was very young and very small, so crawling around in the office, hiding under the desk. You definitely hear phone calls you wasn't supposed to hear, you know what I mean, about business, about this. And so I remember all of those things. And so she was my biggest mentor. I also went to Freedom Theater. So everywhere I went, I was a sponge. So with that, I had a ton of mentors. Every teacher I had was a mentor of mine as it relates to the arts. Most of them saw something special in me before I saw it in myself. And was like, okay, can you stay after class a little longer to do this? Sometimes I didn't want to. I wanted to go with my friends, but I'm like, this might give me an extra point or two. But what they were doing was they saw something in me and wanted to invest in that as just another kid, I guess, you know. And that happened a number of times. And I would be here all day if I named every professor of mine that pulled me to the side and said, but it was pretty much college and Freedom Theater and my grandma. Most of those teachers and instructors and facilitators mentored me. And how I mentor other people is through everything I do. I don't really call it mentoring, but as an entrepreneur, you have a responsibility by default. Not really, but everybody is looking at you. And because everybody's in search of something. And there's this idea that entrepreneurs are finding it faster than other people because they just took that leap. You know, I don't know if that's necessarily true. I don't know if I found that through my business, but what I have found was being myself and being honest with my dreams and my goals give other people permission to do the same. And that's how I mentor them the best, by doing the best I can at all times and being very transparent, not on purpose, okay? It's not like I'm out here like I want to share my business. No. Before I know it, I've exposed myself. I've exposed myself in teaching. I've exposed myself, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I said too much. But in that, exposing myself and my failures and my successes, that's how I mentor people, because people learn from that. Many people have said, yo, when the store was getting ready to close, it wasn't a secret. It was not a secret. I was very ashamed, not ashamed, but very embarrassed, and I felt like I was getting ready to fail. Or not getting ready, I felt like I failed. And I couldn't pay people, so sending an email to say, I can't pay you, that was heartbreaking. That was heartbreaking because these people have responsibilities of their own. Children, you know, they're depending on me to provide a space for them to make money. And I felt like I couldn't do that, you know, but that too was a lesson. And I humbled myself to have that conversation. And in humbling myself, it was one of the best things that could have ever happened to me, because it gave other people a chance to see somebody really be like, yo, it wasn't a secret. This man had $0 with a store on South Street. So if he has $0 and I'm crying over a trans pass, please. So at this point, then the welcoming and the non-judgmental zone thing, that's also by default. I mean, by default is because there's no way I can judge you with trying to keep these doors open. As an entrepreneur, how can we? we put ourselves out there, and it's a risk every single day. Unless you got it like that, unless you got the kind of help, But some people don't. Some people just have a dream. And because now I had a dream, I had a goal, and I feel like I'm at a certain place where I can help other people's dreams and other people's goals in a better way, where maybe I wasn't helped, not in a bad way, but just because I didn't know I needed help. I didn't want help sometimes, or I was just young. Because again, I started very young.
I am so happy you brought that up and shed light on the failures, because I really think in entrepreneurship, it's not talked about enough, and it's a part of every entrepreneur's journey. And I truly believe it's actually the key to success, because those learnings prepare you for what's coming. So I'm so glad you mentioned that. I think it's gonna really be powerful for some of the viewers. Can you tell us what it was like having your production, Black Kid Joy, featured on numerous news stations and in newspapers?
I felt blessed and excited, but it was also being counteracted with reality, with fear and doubt. And that it's changed a lot. But over the years, I've had to train myself to trust completely. Trust not only in God, not only in myself, but in the community. Trust that people are going to show up. Because if we do 10 shows a year, okay, you understand? If we do 10 shows a year, and this is how we fund a nonprofit, I'm always thinking people for 12 years, people have been coming back and forth. Which show are they not going to come to? Which play, which concert, which class are they like, you know what, I'm done with this man. I've seen all the things he can do. What else can he possibly do? And then there's the fear of being corny. After doing this over and over again, just is this music even good? Is this play good? Have people been lying to me? And then I go, this whole this sucks. Everybody, they're all family and friends. They're just saying this because they want to, I don't know. I have to tell myself, no, just stop, and keep going.
And that's an imposter syndrome I think all humans face, no matter what your career is. I just don't think it's talked about enough. So the fact that you're speaking up about it just shows that you're such a good mentor to those in all the capacities that you serve. So that's awesome.
So John, what advice would you give to aspiring artists who want to get into acting, theater, and the arts in general? What would you tell them?
Before you do anything, learn how to do it, And if you're going to be an artist or a singer, because some people come to us and they have never sang before, and they're like, I want to learn how to sing. And they begin to get so defeated and feel bad around singers who've been singing since they were 4 years old. Well, that's unrealistic to think that you get ready to be that confident, that amazing if you just started at 30 versus somebody who's been singing since 5 years old. And so in this community, I try to make that very clear and give people comfort and give people the understanding that you have to put in time. And nothing getting a gig off of Craigslist or selling out a theater, we've all been there. That doesn't mean you know what you're doing. So because when you get the opportunity or the test where you have to prove that you know what you're doing, resumes don't matter. It's what you actually can do. So my advice would be, can you do what you say you're going to do? Can you go learn, spend some time. It's easy to say under a mentor, but that's not always easy, realistic to be okay, I want to be a singer. Any singing mentors out there? A mentor, like I said earlier, mentors can be just somebody or the individuals who in the space you're learning and gleaning from. My advice, learn before you put yourself out there. Because if you put yourself out there before you learn and you don't do so well, you're going to talk yourself out of doing what you might have been called to do simply because you weren't prepared. And being prepared is your biggest enemy. You know what I mean? As it relates to being a performing artist, So, there's a number of opportunities where you're going to throw yourself out there, where you're going to have experiences where you don't know nothing, but for the things that you can, learn.
That's great advice for any profession. I feel like as an entrepreneur or whatever you want to do, get really good at it. I think people expect to, like you said, start and be great. It's were you great when you first rode a bike or drove a car? No, you probably almost hit someone while you
Absolutely.
were driving, fell off the bike. So I love that message. Well, thank you so much, Marilyn, for being my guest host and for being here.
Thank you.
And thank you, John, for sharing your story. It's been such a pleasure. To attend a performance or workshop or visit the thrift store, visit the link on your screen. On Up Media is powered by the Uncommon Individual Foundation, a nonprofit leader in mentor-based learning, founded in 1986 by Dr. Richard E. Caruso. To learn more about UAF, follow the link on their website. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Jacqueline DeGregorio, and I'll see you soon.